Hi, I'm Jo Ramirez, and you're listening to Beyond the Grid.
Hi all, Tom Clarkson here with the latest edition of your favourite podcast. It's Beyond the Grid, presented by Bose Quiet Comfort 35.2 wireless headphones. My guest this week for a special summer break edition of the show is someone whose name may not be instantly recognisable to everyone, but he's got more Formula One stories than almost anyone I've ever met. He worked in the sport for more than 40 years and witnessed many significant moments in F1 history from the inside. He was also good friends with many of the sport's biggest figures. I'm talking about Joe Ramirez, a man whose first F1 job was back in the 1960s when he supported fellow Mexican Ricardo Rodriguez. That journey took him to Europe and on a path that saw him work with the likes of Jackie Stewart at Tyrrell, Emerson Fittipaldi at Copersucar, and Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, and Mika Häkkinen at McLaren. Joe's career was both colourful and long, and at no point, not even at the height of Senna and Prost feuding in 1989 when he was McLaren's team coordinator, did he lose his love for the sport or the people that work in it. Joe's strongest association is with McLaren, where he worked for 18 years. But when he attended the recent Hungarian Grand Prix, we caught up in, yes, you guessed it, the McLaren motorhome, for a chat about his life and his most colourful memories. His passion for the sport continues to reverberate through every sentence. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Joe, welcome to Beyond the Grid. It's lovely to have you on the show. And my goodness, when I talk to you, I don't almost know where to start because your career in motorsport has spanned 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties. I mean, do you have a favourite era?
Oh, I think that's an easy question because without a doubt was the 80s and the end of the 80s. That team that we have with McLaren, the untouchables. I mean, Senna and Prost, we won 15 out of 16 races. That's without a doubt the best era. But I'm lucky. I born where I born. Therefore, I have the 40 best years of the sport: the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. I retired in 2001, and then by then, you know, the money is overtaking the sport, the regulation, everything has changed so much that people with like Ayrton Senna looking up there and is turning on his grave because the sport is a lot more different than when I started.
That's really interesting. You think Ayrton would be turning in his grave at the conditions in Formula One now? Yes,
I think more about the punishment about it. The racing has to be more clinical. You know, we kept seeing just what happened in the last few races between Verstappen and Leclerc. And when Leclerc said, okay, if this is going to be the rules now on, I'll do the same. And he did. So it's good. This is what it's all about. I mean,
let them race.
Let them race. I mean, we are in a circuit where everybody said it was difficult to overtake. But for Ayrton, there was no circuit difficult to overtake. You know, it was the man that if you see a gap, he'd take it. And he tells you, you know, if you see a gap and you don't take it, you're no longer a racing driver. And that is the essence of the sport. And of course, it's going to be an accident because one want to overtake and the other doesn't want to let overtaking. Therefore, every now and again, there'll be a collision. Why to create so much punishment and... But anyway, I don't want to sound, you know, older than this is how it was, but this is how it is now.
Well, Joe, let's talk more then about that period with McLaren. We'll come back to your time at the earlier years. But so you spent 18 years with McLaren. How did it first come about? How did the opportunity with the team come about in 1983?
Well, actually, a year before that, a couple of years, I'm not sure, Ron and I were very good friends when he was started as a mechanic and as I was a mechanic and so on.
Then so you knew Ron Dennis when he worked for Cooper back in the 60s?
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Right.
And then there was a period we used to play squash together. Every time we have a weekend free, either in Maidenhead, where I used to live, or in Woking, where Ron lived, you know. And
who won?
We were actually very, very equal. Sometimes he wins, and you know, Ron is the worst loser in the world. So, but it was good. And then we used to go and eat with my wife at my place or with Lisa in walking. In fact, it was Sally, not Lisa, at the time. And anyway, then one year he then got into Formula 2, or I can't remember, and he got enough sponsorship that he could have another team, and he told me. And by then I was a team manager with Shadow, and I was enjoying it, having a good time, and I thought, no, I won't do it, and so I didn't. And then the following year, before the engine went turbo, when he took over McLaren in 1981, in 82, he said, "Oh, you must come and work for me and do a nice job for you and challenges and everything." And by then, I was with Theodoro Racing, also team manager at Theodoro Racing. I did my own decisions and so on. And I thought, well, it was Teddy Mayer, Tyler Alexander. There was a lot of people. I thought, when am I going to be there? In that, it seems certainly from a small team going to a big team, even if he gives me a good job or whatever, I felt, no, I said, Ron, I'm quite happy where I am. So I didn't take it. The following year, you have to have a turbo. If you didn't have a turbo, you were dead. We didn't have a turbo. No way we could ever have a turbo. So in fact, that was our last year. I had opportunities to go to the United States, but I didn't want to do that. And I was really thinking, my God, stupid me, I should have taken the job with Ron, But I was too proud to call him. But the phone rang again, and Ron said, "So what are you doing? You don't have a turbo engine. What are you going?" "No, yes, Ron, but we're going to do this and that." I was playing hard to get, "Oh, come and see me." So I went to see him, and I had a meeting with him and a meeting with John Barner, and that was it. That was in December, and my official day was the day of the Christmas party of McLaren, and my first kind of job. We had the turbo, we had the Porsche engines then. Part of my job was the relation between Porsche and McLaren, because we used to pay, Mansour Tag was paying the engines, and we used to pay for every nut and bolt and washer, so that was part of my job.
Joe, you worked for 8 different teams, Formula One teams.
Yes.
How different was Ron's team to anything you'd done before?
Oh, incredible. I mean, there was all the teams I work in Formula One, when I was a team manager, ATS, Theodoro, Shadow, and I always have to make sure that we had enough money to keep on racing. That was the biggest problem I have. And I got to McLaren, and Ron said, "Whatever we need, you buy it. Don't worry about the money. I worry about the money. Whatever we need, you buy it. We want to have the best for the teams." We were the best team in Formula One to have the Ford rig test bed for the car. I said, "Ron, this is expensive. How much is that?" It's about $1 million. I said, "You need it? We're going to make us better? Buy it. Don't worry about the money." It was just like such a breath of fresh air, I never had to worry about the money. And our motto then was work hard and play hard. And by God, we did play hard.
Did Ron play hard as well?
Oh, Ron was the first one in those days. Ron changed so much after that, but in those days, he was number one. And then if he had to leave when the races, overseas races, where I had to stay with the team and make sure everything was done till the end, and Ron and the engineers left before, he always said, make sure the boys have a good time, And my credit card was never, ever queried. We had a good time. And Ron is being criticized by many things, but he wasn't a guy, okay, he had a plane, but he didn't have a boat, and, he had a house in the south of France, okay. But the team never, ever missed anything. We never have to save money on the team.
And the results
in this
showed.
Business, exactly.
You had some great drivers, didn't you? When you were at McLaren, I mean, I'm thinking of Lauda and Prost and Senna and Rosberg and Hakkinen. Who left the greatest impression on you out of those guys?
Well, for sure, Alain and Ayrton. There was very similar between them, and there is a lot of difference, but they never seemed to sweat. They never seemed to try hard. it comes so natural for them. It was amazing. I can never understand, like, sometimes Mansell did 17.3 or whatever, and then Alain goes and then did 17.2. Jeez, and Mansell go a little bit quicker again, and then Alain goes again, and another thing. I said, how the hell you can just do one thing? You want to do is half a second, but just what he needed. And it's, no wonder they call him the professor. I think he was so precise and technical. And I always say that the basic difference between the two of them, when Alain had a car 100% to his like, it was unbeatable. Ayrton couldn't touch him. But how often you get a car that you like it 100%? It's very seldom. You maybe 40% of the time, 30%, 40% if you're lucky, While Ayrton, if the car wasn't right, on those days you could do as many laps as you want for qualified. So he said, okay, I can just leave the car and I adapt to the car and change his driving to adapt to the car. And at the end, it ended up to be maybe a little bit quicker. But if the car was perfect, never, like at Paul Ricard, once we, in those days, you have a good practice, and then Goodyear give you 4 sets of qualified, the sticky ones, 1 lap special for qualified. And Alain got the first time, did 1 lap, then a time lap. He came in, stopped, and it was top. It was on pole. Take his jeans, take his overalls, put his jeans and his t-shirt. What are you doing? We've got another 3 sets of tires. If he can do a better lap than this, he deserves the pole. I can't. This is my best lap. Bloody Ayrton, I see him on his t-shirt in the pit lane, and he really get mad about it. And I tried to beat him, he never did. So Alain had the pole. But it was that sort of thing was the fight between them in a good mood. That's what it was so good, because then in Portugal, Ayrton did the same to Alain.
Oh, got changed midway through.
Got changed. You did a quick lap, you changed, and yeah.
When was Prost at his peak at McLaren? I mean, he made his debut with the team in 1980, then rejoined in 1984, didn't he? When do you think he was at his best? Was he still at his peak when Senna joined in 88, or do you think he'd plateaued? Or
No, for sure he was at his peak, for sure.
I heard Niki Lauda say once he'd love to have seen the 84 spec Prost go up against Ayrton Senna, but...
Yeah, but mind you, Keke Rosberg, when Ron tried very hard to get Ayrton, and he couldn't get it. They pay more in Lotus and stay. And Keke Rosberg, which he has already driven with Alain in the same with us, he said, it's the best thing that could happen to Ayrton. Ayrton, there's so much they talk about Ayrton. He comes and drives with Prost. Ayrton wouldn't be anybody. He would really...
Rosberg rated him that much.
Yeah, he rated Prost like the best guy he'd ever compete with. And the good thing with Prost, he never kind of said anything to Ron, why do we get him or get somebody else? Or if he's supposedly to be the best, he accepted with open arms, and he said, well, he will make me better if he's that good.
So why did the wheels fall off their relationship? I know people talk about Imola 89, but obviously things had been bubbling away prior to that. Why do you think it fell apart?
Yeah, well, really the drop that got off the glass, like they said, it was in Imola for sure, because Ayrton did not respect the agreement. But, before that, he was always saying, Ayrton always thought that we were giving Prost better deals and better engines or whatever, although the engines were always the same. We were all the 5 engines there for a race, and it was the mechanic that chose them, so nothing to do with them at all. So one day, the mechanic from Prost chose the engine for Ayrton, and the other one, the contrary. So the cars were 2 drops of water, really, completely the same. But, there was 2 difficult personalities, characters. They always thought that the other one was getting a better deal. It was one race in Silverstone where we had a lot of problems with the oil tank, or we keep blowing engines. And then we had one that it didn't blow because we were changing the oil tank all the time. And he happened to be in Prost. And, you gave him the best engine and the best oil tank, and not to me. And said, no, how do we know? We're just trying the difference in each car to find out the good one and then produce two. No, he wouldn't take it. Bloody hell, it was tough. Ayrton was much more tougher than that.
What about your relationship with them? Because you were team coordinator, so what kind of things did you do for them? And was it difficult for you to not take sides?
Yes, it was. But then again, I didn't, as I said, I only did the things that benefit them. And I didn't do contracts. Ron did all the big things and the contracts and that. I never even see them. But, I just make sure that they have all their gear, their driving suit, their shoes, their gloves, their helmets. I arrange all that with the different manufacturers that they have chosen and organize their car cars or the courtesy car cars and airplanes when they wanted to go somewhere. Really, I didn't got involved in anything more than that, and I tried to do the same for both. And when things got a little bit sticky and they started, I tried to make a joke between them and sort of soften the problem and see where. But
would one of them ask you, "What's he doing? How's he getting home?" Was there a bit of that going on?
Yes, for sure. There was. There were two circuits, Monaco and Spa. Two circuits where Alain Prost was the standard there, and he set the rules. And in both circuits, I think Ayrton was about a second quicker, both testing, and he was just unbelievable. He just, when Ayrton get to Formula One, Prost was number one. So it was Prost, the one that he wanted to beat. He didn't care about Mansell, Piquet, Rosberg. No, we're Prost, So every time we testing or qualifying for a race or practicing, what springs have Prost and what rear wing have Prost, and everything. He just wanted to know and then try it, and very often change things, and he wasn't any quicker than Prost. He said, "Well, just put the car same as Prost, and then I can beat it." And so it was. But in those two particular circuits, he was. I remember in Spa, Ayrton, after qualified, he got himself in such a trance that we leave it alone. He used to go and sit in the track for 5 minutes to, get down the adrenaline that he put to do that quick lap. And we leave him there till he got changed his clothes and so on. And he was sitting in the floor of the track, and Alain and I were stopped at the other end of the track. I was looking at Ayrton, and Prost was kind of looking at me, and we were looking at the sheets. And he said, "Where would he be so quick?" I said, "I can't believe how quick it's for all places in here," Alain was saying, And then Alain said, "God, he's fucking quick." And as he said that, Ayrton was listening, and Alain didn't know that Ayrton was there. He was listening, and he just wink an eye. It's just like saying, "Lord, I got him now. I'm quicker than him." It was all sort of little games between them, and it's like he said, "Okay, I wanted to be the best in the world. Alain is the best, and I have beaten him." So
you mentioned Monaco. I do want to ask you about Monaco '88. Senna did that amazing qualifying lap, and then he crashes in the race when he's 40 seconds up the road or whatever he is. Is that a defining race in the career of Ayrton Senna, do you think? Do you think he came away from that disappointment and changed his approach in any way? Or what are your memories of the race as well?
I think so, for sure, because by then it was some of the first races that he started racing against Prost, and he was obsessed about Prost. So having made the pole completely stratospheric, and Gerhard was after, Gerhard blocked a line for 50 odd laps or whatever it was, And so he built up a lead of 56 seconds, I think. And then finally Alain got rid of Gerhard and started getting faster and faster, and record lap after record lap, and he was getting the seconds every lap. Of course, Ayrton see it. Alain second, and he's gaining on me, so starting himself lap after lap and record lap, etc. And Ron is shouting to him, he's never going to catch you, no way, it's 50 seconds you got in front, slow down, concentrate. And he just wouldn't hear it. He just processed behind. He had to go quicker and quicker. And he got there and he missed the corner, hit the guardrail on the inside, and he went on the other side, and that was it. His race was finished. And then nobody could see him till about 9 in the evening. I keep calling, and it was this Brazilian lady that used to look after the flat and made the food when he was there. And the phone didn't answer at all. Oh, in the end.
How did you know he was there?
Well, where he crashed, it was very convenient, almost in the entrance of his apartment.
Oh, okay. Avenue Princess Grace, down there. Yeah,
Grace.
Yeah.
So he just walked there.
So you knew he was there and not picking up the phone? Okay. Yeah.
And eventually, about 9, 10 o'clock at night, Isabel got the phone and said, "Oh no, Signor Ayrton is not home. He's not home." "Oh yeah, for sure he's there. Where else could he be? Come on." Isabel, please tell him it's Joe. Actually, she knew me because the night before I had dinner in her flat there. And I said, "It's Joe. Please tell him. He will take the phone." He said, "Don't tell it he's wrong. Tell it it's Joe." And eventually I could hear Ayrton, "Okay, give me the phone." And Ayrton was almost still in tears then. He said, "Oh, I must be the most idiot on the world." He said, "I don't know what happened. The steering wheel came out of my hand." When he hit the inside barrier, I think. But yes, he's really, I think psychologically he had to change from then on and say, "Well, Prost is another driver. I don't have to get so obsessed about him. Sometimes I will beat him, sometimes he will beat me, but it's better keep cool and finish the races. Don't make mistakes," I think.
What language did you talk to Senna in?
I speak always if we were alone, in Portuñolo, half Portuguese, half Spanish.
What, you had your own language?
Yes, kind of, yeah. And because he speaks a lot of language as well. But when we were with the team, every time Ron here talking, the official language of the team is English. Okay, so.
Yeah. We'll hear more from Joe in just a minute. Now, if you ask me for advice on how to create or manage a website from scratch, I'd have to be honest, hold my hands up and say, I don't know. It's not my bag. Luckily, we have a great team at F1 to take care of that side of things for us. But if you're looking for a business solution to help you grow your online presence, no matter what size your enterprise, then Wix could be exactly what you need. With Wix, you'll get all the tools necessary to create the website and the business you want. You can access advanced business features to help you automate your work and boost productivity, or you can utilize the built-in task management and reminder tools to help you manage your workflow and hit deadlines. And if what you need is to build customer relationships and streamline user experience of your website, then Wix can help you add a chat function so you can send messages to customers in real time. All this and so much more. Get started by going to Wix.com. That's Wix, Wix.com/grid to get 10% off. Wix.com/grid to get 10% off. Now let's get back to Joe. So when the relationship fell apart in '89, was it always Prost who was going to end up leaving the team? Or do you think there was ever a chance it could have been Senna who'd gone on?
No, I think no. By then, I think it was clear to Alain that he was the past and Ayrton was the future, as far as Ron is concerned. So I think that for Alain was to continue with McLaren or try to go elsewhere. And he had the opportunity to go with Ferrari, and coupled we tried so hard to keep him, but But, one thing I can relate it, I said, you like your job? I said, yeah, I love my job. Okay, I love my job too, he said. I like racing. I love racing. But if I have to race against Ayrton on the same team, it's not pleasant anymore. I don't feel right. I'm not frightened of him. He's not going to beat it. I can show I have beaten him before. But I like to enjoy my work. If I don't enjoy it, you cannot perform at the same level. And I could understand that. To me, I've never ever had a job. I mean, this is a way of life. It was my hobby, and somebody paid me for it. So I did understand that. We couldn't. Great shame. And then the way they end up, I used to talk so many times with Ayrton and say, look, Alain and Ferrari, very often you're going to be in the podium together. You may as well finish the feud and shake hands and be friends. I wouldn't shake hands that bloody frog ever,
He didn't relax at all. His attitude towards Alain didn't relax at all.
But then the last year, when he retired, Prost, and it was known, I believe they even had lunch together on that Imola.
Imola 94?
Yeah, whether it was the day of the race or the day before. I believe they had lunch in the motorhome.
Was your relationship with Senna as close in 94 once he left McLaren? Did you stay in touch?
Yes. Well, yeah, we did. And in fact, when he died, the night before, he said, can I ask you a favor? Yeah, for sure, anything, I said, we're working on different flags, but we're still friends. And, he said, could you get me a helicopter to take me to Fort Lee, where he normally put his plane? Because in Williams, we don't have anybody to look after the drivers, to do the things for the drivers, We may be the highest paid employee at Williams, but they don't look after you at all, And everybody, you speak Italian, and could you yeah, sure. And so I got the helicopter. There was no mobile phones. I got a helicopter, and then I come in, I give him the license and the plate of the helicopter and where it was going to be and the name of the pilot and all that. And I was quite happy. And then I saw him at the driver's meeting. There used to be a driver's meeting before the race. And he was happy. I said, no, in the warm-up, the car is much better now. I really like it. Because he was on pole. He was on pole, not the Williams. He was completely overdriving that car. But he said, no, the car is better. So we shake hands. That was the last time I spoke to him until the accident. But like Michael Schumacher said, he was behind and he saw the way that Ayrton was driving. And he said, there's no way. He's not going to keep this driving the whole race. He's totally out-driving the car. So I just sit behind and wait till get tired.
That's interesting, isn't it? So the body language of the car would suggest that Ayrton was still pushing, because I was going to ask you, some people have claimed that Senna was contemplating retirement at the time. What's your take on that?
No. Of course, he was very upset whenever he had a big accident, and with Ratzenberger, it was really... But there's so many stories, like you said, that... the night before, he thought that Professor Watkins said, Ayrton, you don't have to race. You don't want, why do you need to keep on racing? And I don't know. Yes, it's true to say that it was a little bit disenchanting the way that the Formula One was going on. Just like Sebastian Vettel is now. But that he had thoughts of retiring, no, I don't think so. And if he was going to retire, he wasn't going to retire with Williams. He would probably go with Ferrari and retire with Ferrari.
Well, he had dinner with Luca de Montezemolo on the Wednesday before Imola. Something that Luca told us on the Beyond the Grid podcast, actually. So did you go to Senna's funeral in Sao Paulo?
No, I had my ticket. I had everything ready to go. And the night before, I spoke with his mother and his father, and we couldn't even speak, we're trying to, and we were both crying, and I said, and in the end I said, bloody hell, what am I going to do that? hero in Brazil, the most beloved person in Brazil, and everybody's going to be crying and sad, and no, I don't want to be there and part of that, so I canceled. I didn't go.
But I mean, Joe, death. You worked through an era of Formula One where death wasn't commonplace, but it happened a lot. I mean, if I mention some names, both Rodriguez brothers, Ricardo, I know you were very close with in particular, but then you were working on Francois Sever's car in 73, and of course he died at Watkins Glen, and then there's Senna. And did you ever struggle to keep going? Did you ever fall out of love with the sport because of what was happening to these people?
Probably when Ricardo died, yes, I really thought, wow, what am I, because even Count Volpi de Misurata, which he was going to help Ricardo in his future, and he was building these ATS new cars, he stopped doing that because he was very close with Ricardo, and he said, I don't want to be part of someone losing his life because I'm producing the car. And that's when Ricardo died, I had a big depression, and I thought, do I really want to do this or go back to Mexico? No. But then I thought, no, this is what I like it, and I'm sure that Ricardo would like me to continue and whatever. And then after that, I had so many, not just all the people that were with Ferrari, Lorenzo Bandini, which I was a good friend with him. Then he was Mike Parks, Scarfiotti, you name it. And then Lucky Kastner with Maserati. So many people, they've gone. And it's amazing. I didn't realize that till somebody that read my book, he said, wow, how many people have died during your period? Yes, I mean, that's how it was, It's incredible that then we had a period with Elio De Angelis died in Destiny, Paul Ricard, and then we had 12 years, and then we have the worst weekend the Formula One ever seen when Ayrton and Rotzenberger were killed.
You must have a huge passion for the sport. But Joe, did you ever want to drive yourself?
I did. And in Mexico, I used to drive go-karts and saloon cars, and I was quite good. But if I ever have a regret in my life, it's not to carry on pushing to become a driver. But when I come to Italy, I had nothing. I left Mexico with $300, and I struggled to live for a few months with that until I got a paid job at Maserati. And then it was just... But yes, if I regret anything, maybe I should have tried harder.
And was it while you were racing the saloons and the karts that you met Ricardo Rodriguez?
Ricardo, yes.
What kind of a guy was he? I mean...
he was a guy like, I would say, Francois Sebert, full of fun. Pedro was very introverted, but Ricardo was full of fun all the time, ready for a joke, and he was one of those with a talent from birth. He didn't have to try hard. Someone like Graham Hill, which he wasn't a Jim Clark. He tried very hard and succeed. For Ricardo, everything comes so easier. So he was a fabulous guy, really, really was.
And properly quick.
Oh, I'm sure he would be one of the greatest. And we would never know, but we never had the opportunity. But at the time, I mean, he was just mega.
I mean, is it true that you shared a hotel room with him in Modena?
In Modena, no, we didn't share a room, but because he was married, but then he was with his wife.
Oh, okay.
But in the same hotel.
No,
in the same hotel. Before they gave me I call it a broom cover, because it was a very small room, but I was paying almost nothing. And in fact, I didn't pay anything until I got my first job. Then I paid the hotel, and then I got a little room in a family in Modena.
Now, you also worked, I mean, your career is quite phenomenal. I don't think there's another man alive who has had the career that you've had, obviously outside of Formula One as well, but even in Formula One. And you were the best looking car, the nicest looking car that I think ever seen in Formula One, that Eagle Westlake. Dan Gurney.
Something else. Yeah, Dan.
Did you realise at the time just what a beauty that was, or is it something that you only appreciate afterwards?
Well, no, I think we did, and also because everybody come and tell us, we have the first one to use the titanium exhaust pipes, and they were beautiful pipes made on the B12, so you have 6 pipes and 6 the other one, and the color was beautiful, and the shape of the car, and the cars on those days with no wings, with just proper racing cars, they look beautiful. I love to see them every now and again, and I love that they still have brackets that I made. It's very
car even now.
Even now. So,
can you remember Spa when Dan Gurney won that?
Yeah,
huge moment.
Fabulous. I mean, that was our first win. Well, we won the Race of Champions, but that was the first Grand Prix win for Eagle and for me. That was the first of my career of 116, which is.
Tell us about Dan Gurney. I mean, he was. I mean, so I'm told he was the one guy that Jim Clark really feared.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yes, and in fact, it was in a Race of Champions once. Clark was leading. Dan, I don't know, it was fourth or third or fourth, and then he would start catching up. He got behind Clark, and Clark was so worried driving on his mirrors and lost it. Unusual mistake for Jimmy to lost it in bottom bend, and Dan went to lead the race, and then had a problem with the spark plugs, had to stop to change. Now, the story of Dan always had problem with the car, or changing teams at the wrong moment, because he should have been the first American world champion. He was, not the first, because Phil Hill
in
was
61, wasn't
61,
there? Yeah.
Yes. But he was a great man. One of the best bosses and friends I had, even until his death last year.
Joe, what about the concept of being an owner-driver back then? I mean, how did he juggle the two roles?
I know, sometimes we thought, we should let him to concentrate more on the driving. But then he got a manager that he was doing that, and he got a little better. But he was a great fiddler. He liked to do things all the time. I remember we didn't have the pits that we have now in Spa. We was walking at the back of the garage in the hill in the gravel with the car. And I remember standing up on the door of the track. The car was there in an uphill on the gravel, and he said, I think that you give it a little more toe in on the right front. You sure? Then, yeah, look at it, doesn't look me. So I gave it, you have to. And then in the racetrack, he tried so hard that even if he changed something that wasn't good, he tried hard to show us that it was good. But then
to prove it was right.
Yeah, to prove that it was right. And then he said, I'll put it back how it was before, because it's easier to drive or whatever. But I also like that he was the first one to introduce the Gurney flap, the little lip that everybody put on the back of the rear wing. And up until these days, it's still called the Gurney flap.
So it was his idea. Did he propose that, or was it one of you guys working?
No, he proposed to do it. And then we put it on, and they work, and we have in 5 millimeters, 10 millimeters, 3 millimeters, all different sizes. He was the first one to introduce the Bell Star helmet cover here. He was 1968. He used it for the first time, and he did a few innovations for racing. And of course, he was the one that started shaking the champagne bottle at Le Mans when he won in 86.
Well, I think a few people claim that. Doesn't Jackie Stewart claim it was him?
No.
It was Dan,
it was Dan Gurney. If you go to the Moet factory, I think he gave them the bottle to some journalists, American journalists. And then this guy, he got ill. He said, look, I'm going to die soon, and I think the bottle is yours. You should keep it. And Dan had it in his house with a lampshade. And he had the sign. Everybody that came to his house and have dinner, they had and when I was there in Santana, which I was already with, when did we race in Oh, in Long Beach, California. I went to his house with dinner with them, and he had this lamp with the senators there, Clark, you name it, Americans, and everyone. And said, you got to sign. No, Dan, I can't sign with all these superstars here. But I was pleased, and I signed it. And then I believe that when he started to get ill, Dan himself, he gave it to Moet. I'm not sure, or probably still in the factory. But they had a cabinet in there too.
I love that, the tail of the champagne bottle, and it was Dan who did it, not Jackie Stewart. But talking of
because he did it in Le Mans the first time, and then the next weekend is when he won Spa in Formula One. So he did it then. So he was the first in sport cars and in Formula One because it was one weekend apart.
Jackie Stewart, Tyrrell, very different vibe, obviously. I mean, there was, what was it, the woodshed? I think that's where they built with. Just describe Tyrrell to me. How different was it to what you'd experienced before?
I think the period that I worked with Ken, that was one of my best stages of my life. Absolutely loved it. It was a real family team. Everybody pulled the same way. We all helped each other. There was no politics, bitching, anything on the team. It was unbelievable. I'm very proud of a picture I have in my book where it's 25 of us, and that was the team. The 6 of us that go to the races, the rest that build the cars, the factory, including the accounts, and it's amazing. It was 25 people, including Nora, Ken's wife. Incredible team, was superb. And when I joined McLaren, there were 64 of us. When I left McLaren, it was close to 800. It's amazing,
Well, that was
so. Yeah. But with Ken, it was really super. Having dinner with. He was always very good to everybody. All the team was a quite small team. Stay in the same hotels. Like in Austria, we stay in a somebody's house. Big house, and he accommodated.
Would Jackie and Francois,
they would stay with you? Yes, we stayed all together. We had dinner all together, and it was a proper family team. I was just remember I was talking to Jackie early in the morning because somebody asked me. I was talking with Simon from Sky TV because he was watching at practice, and he had this little telephone and watching at the cricket, the Ashes. And I said, once an Englishman, always an Englishman. And it reminded me of Ken Tyrrell.
He loved his cricket, didn't he?
So much. And I was talking to Jackie. I said, remember when, I think it was Brian Sachs, Jackie come in and said, Ken, this car is undrivable, understeer, oversteer. And Ken laughed. He said, you think you got troubles? England is 305 or 7 at Lord's. So you can imagine, it was brilliant.
Might have been lost on a Scotsman, maybe, that comment. I don't know. But, were you surprised? I mean, such a close-knit team at Tyrrell that when Francois lost his life in Watkins Glen, were you surprised that Jackie didn't make the start the next day? He chose not to start the race. Did that surprise you, or given everything you expected it?
Yes, I think he did, because it would have been his 100th Grand Prix, and he had a pretty good chance of winning it. And I can't remember exactly at the time whether if it was Ken or Jackie that decided to respect the memory of Francois, decided to pull off the race. But maybe that wouldn't be what Francois would have wanted. It was a tough decision. The worst thing of that weekend after the death of Francois is that having to go to his room and collect all his things and his briefcase and put it all together to take it to the family. And I believe that briefcase was never opened for 40 years until a few years ago when it was the 40th anniversary of the death. And they made something in Paris. I was invited, but I couldn't go. Jackie went. And I think that they opened the briefcase then. It's amazing.
Has the camaraderie among the drivers, the friendship among the drivers, changed
Oh, big time. Yes, that's probably one of the things that changed a lot. There was much more united kind of club. Now, and the GPDA that practically don't exist is there, but it's so hard, and it's not, Lewis Hamilton don't approve of it, or don't go to the meetings, or don't know. I don't know, but it's bad because the top guys are the ones that they have to make it work, and a lot of the things that they criticize about the sport is because they themselves don't get together to fight for a better this or better that. But everybody had their own agendas, just like the teams, so it's very difficult to
I think the GPDA is probably stronger, actually, at the minute than it's been for a while. But I always think it's the advent of private jets that has ruined the camaraderie, because now, 2 hours after the end of the race, the drivers have all disappeared, whereas I guess back in the day, everyone was on the same plane, and travel was harder back then, wasn't it? So you may have had to spend an extra night in the hotel after the race, or that's something that's changed.
The special charter flights, and very few people have planes, and yes, it was. All that have changed, and of course, there's so many more races now. People want a little bit of time at home, and
they're talking about 22, 23 next year. But so look, Joe, I mean, you're a man who we could talk to literally for hours. But if I were to say to you, of all your Formula One memories, is there one moment that stands out?
It's very difficult. I mean, I had a really exceptional career. I've been lucky to born when I did, but I've always is one that always the Adelaide Grand Prix in 1993, which is the last race that Ayrton won with McLaren. It was an exceptional weekend. I think I thoroughly enjoyed it, and. Although it was a sad weekend, but anyway, we put the car on pole, and it was the first pole of the Cosworth engine for 10 years. And just before the start, it was the last race for Alain Prost. He was retiring, so it was another person that was very close to me and to the team. We were at the par with Ferrari with 103 wins each. So whoever wins Adelaide would have been 104, and up till the moment, the most successful Grand Prix team. And I remember at the start, just before the start, Ayrton kind of called me, and I didn't realize why, like if he was wanting me to do his bells, but normally he did it himself. He did the last pull on the bell. He just wanted to talk to me without doing it on the radio for everybody to listen, So he grabbed me by the arm, very strong, and he said, "Joe, I feel so strange to do this for the last time on a McLaren." And I said, "Well, if you think you feel strange, imagine us. We didn't want you to go, so we want to miss you." And then I said, "I can't tell you how important this race is for us to win. So if you win this, I would love you forever." And then I saw his eyes were kind of wet, and I thought, bloody hell, I made it emotional, and the race is about to start, But like a good Latin, he was a very emotional guy, but he could control it. And then, of course, won the race. After the race, it was Tina Turner concert in the grounds, and we were there in the front row, and he took her to the stage and danced with her, simply the best. If a song is being sung at the best moment, that was that. It was just
more tears, I'm guessing.
Oh, and the whole stadium was just about to go. It's and I got the video, and it's still not strong enough to see it.
No, Joe.
But every time I hear Tina Turner, I really
You're a fan.
Yeah. Yes.
So you must be pleased, I guess, to see McLaren on the way back. It seems they've had a much better season so far, haven't they, this year?
Yes. Yes, I'm very pleased and very surprised. I think we're all very surprised how quick Lando Norris have become. When they first got him, and I thought, God, I needed somebody stronger to push Carlos. But by God, he's got stronger. And how much has he changed? What Formula One do to you? You know, last year it was a very, timid, doesn't speak, and now it's
Lando,
Yeah, Lando. It's
they're a great team, actually, and Carlos, great guy as well.
They get on well.
Yeah.
They're driving really good, so it's good. I'm really pleased.
Old Hamilton's still doing the business, isn't he, at the front?
Yeah, with the car they have. I mean, Mercedes have really reached perfection, And when they're not quick on this Friday, they get around. They're quick on a Saturday. They are really perfectionists. I said to Toto said, "Oh, come on, don't say you done the same." I said, "No, but we done it just for a few years, but you just doing it too long and too much. Sometimes you still have the two Mercedes first and second, and the third car half a minute later is just the domination has been far too strong and too long."
You said that to Toto Wolff. Sure, he welcomed that.
But it's not your fault. It's not their fault. I think my hat with them. They the ones that get it right. It's everybody else's fault, for sure. But I know he himself admitted, yes, we would like a little bit more because it's better for the sport, and you need to be pushed. But I mean, this is the fascination of the sport.
And you're still so passionate about it. That's what I love. Do you watch all the races now, even the ones you're not attending?
Absolutely. And I watch it with Movistar in Spain, which is doing incredible program. This 24 hours Grand Prix every day. You have all Grand Prix. And during the race, they have Pedro de la Rosa, which is fantastic, and Tony Juncarella, which is very good on the technical side. Albert, they are an incredibly team, very, very good. So I hope we always have...
They're going to enjoy this podcast.
I hope we have a Spanish driver, and they keep doing it, Movistar, because it becomes so expensive to do it. Now, whatever... I don't care how much I have to pay, because I have to see them. There's no way. But I can see that many people, they're going out of the sport because it's too expensive and because it's been boring. But we have shown this year there's no boring now.
The last 4 races,
I know, with Leclerc and Verstappen, they really showing. And and Lando as well. So the new young generation they're
coming through, aren't
pushing,
they? Well, Joe, what a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for sharing some of those memories. You don't look a day older than when I first met you 25 years ago.
No, but I'm kind of overwhelmed that you have chosen me among all those top people that you have made.
Pleasure to speak to you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What a racing life. Can you imagine trying to keep the peace between Senna and Prost when they couldn't even look at each other? Or having to pick yourself up after the loss of François Savert at Watkins Glen in 1973? The stories were endless and the insight was immeasurable. Thank you, Joe, for sharing so many extraordinary moments. I loved our chat and I look forward to seeing you again at this year's Mexican Grand Prix. Well, that's it for another episode, but we'll be back next week with another guest brimming with can't-miss anecdotes. Until then, why not subscribe to Be On The Grid if you haven't already? And thanks for your feedback about last week's episode with Jackie Ickx. Not only was he brilliantly quick, he was one of the sport's great survivors, and he was also seriously cool, something that wasn't lost on listener Peter Haynes. How can Jackie Ickx fail to realise that he was and probably still is the coolest man on the planet, says Peter. Absolutely fascinating Beyond the Grid interview. Well, thanks, Peter, and I couldn't agree with you more about Jackie. He was, and he still is, unbelievably cool. And please keep the feedback coming. We love it. Remember to use the hashtag F1BeyondTheGrid, and you can tweet me at TomClarksonF1. Beyond the Grid is produced by F1 in association with Audio Boom. Until next time, keep it flat out.